Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X, Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily and this Doctor Who ratings report. It's a little bit frustrating because we have to wait well over a week for the iPlayer viewers to come through. So I don't have episode 1 and 2's full viewer count because I'm still waiting for the iPlayer viewing figures to come through. So in the next few days I expect that to happen, so we'll have a fuller picture of what's going on. I think Space Babies will have no more than 5 million, probably slightly under, and then I think episode 2 will be under whatever episode 1 was. That's obvious. I don't think we're looking at 6s, 7 millions. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so. But we do have the overnight figures for Boom, and it's 2.4 million. Now again, because the episodes are released at midnight on the iPlayer, I'm not going to sit here and say to you, oh my God, 2.4 million, it's a disaster, oh my God. Now, if there was no, iPlayer release from midnight on Saturday, 2.4 million would be a disaster. Yes, this is Movies TV Mad. We're honest. And there is no agenda. There is no trying to paint a bright picture or a negative picture. We only speak the truth. And I take the truth and then I put my opinion all over that truth. There's no facts in opinion. Opinion's just an opinion. It's a subjective opinion. It's a point of view. But anyway, last week, I think Space Babies in the second episode, which the title escapes me, Not That It Matters, was around 260. So not far off 3 million, but it's a premiere, you would expect that. So from around 260, 2.60, whatever it is, right, we've gone down to 2.4 million. So looking at the overnights, that's a big dive. That's a big nosedive. And you would expect a slight nosedive because that's what happens from premiere to normally episode 2, but we're looking at episode 3. Now, I know that some people are a little bit disappointed about this and shocked because they felt, because the episode was slightly darker, because Stephen Moffat was involved, that maybe it could keep its premiere kind of numbers, keep its numbers high. And I think that's why RTD brought in Moffat to create some hype, and that's why they didn't officially announce Moffat returning until the past week or two. Really, it was a rumor for a very long time. They wanted to get some hype about it. Now, as much as I love Stephen Moffat, and I do, there's a lot of people who don't like Stephen Moffat as a Doctor Who writer, and there was enough of the fandom that were even upset about his return. So, this wasn't going to be the fanfare that everyone thought it was going to be. I'll state what I stated in my review. I loved it. No, it doesn't get in his top Doctor Who episodes. It doesn't get higher. It's a good episode. I enjoyed it. Am I going to say it's great? I'm not sure if it was great or not, but certainly I wouldn't say it's his greatest work, but it was a good episode. Nothing's perfect, and the episode isn't perfect. And if we like, we can tear it apart. But I don't really want to do that. I've noticed Disparu doing that, and Nerdrodic doing that a little bit, but Nerdrodic admitted at the very least, which was good, of him, to be honest, despite his opinion of the way Doctor Who's going, saying it was better than episodes 1 and 2, but he said that doesn't mean it was a good episode. I disagree. It uplifted me. Look, the whole thing is, when you watch Disparu's videos, and Disparu is a very, very good YouTuber. I like him. He's intelligent. He rips articles to pieces. He exposes, the entertainment industry's agenda. Of course, he's coming from a certain political, ideological viewpoint. But everyone is at the end of the day. He's not alone in that. But he was tearing the episode apart. He didn't like the anti-war rhetoric. I did, because I am very anti-war. I grew up on movies like Casualties of War, one of the great movies about Vietnam. And it's called Casualties of War because everyone's a casualty in that film. Erickson, aka Michael J. Fox, his greatest performance, by the way. You know, Sean Penn Meserve, who basically raped and killed a woman. But it's the war, it's driven him crazy. Not that you can excuse what he does in that film. And it's based on a true story as well. You know, but it's not really about war itself, Boom. It's about the military-industrial complex and how war is a business. And I learned that from Oliver Stone's JFK. And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, being anti-war or anti the military-industrial complex. So I don't see what people's problem is with that. Now, maybe it's people tiring of the commentary, the anti-capitalism commentary as well. There's big fans of capitalism out there. I live in within the capitalism structure. I have to. That's the only way we can live. We can't eat or survive or have a roof over our heads without the capitalism structure that's been set up. And because we've been weeded on it like a drip of sugar, keeping us going, we're too used to capitalism. So it'd be very, very difficult to do something different. Would people give up their luxuries? I think some would, but I think most wouldn't. That's the problem. We've been in, and again, I'm not religious, but in a way, capitalism is like being seduced by the devil, isn't it? And so, and you know, the hypocrisy, of course, of people in the entertainment industry being all anti-capitalism is that they thrive on capitalism. You know, the entertainment industry is the most capitalist thing you can ever have. These studios, these actors, these writers, these producers thrive on the capitalist system. But there is corruption within capitalism. And I can understand why people like Moffat don't like it. You're allowed not to like it. But Moffat is a very famous, very wealthy writer. There's no question about that. So he has thrived from capitalism. So I do see the hypocrisy there. Wouldn't it be nice, though? I know this is supposed to be a ratings report, but we may as well ramble a little bit. But wouldn't it be nice if we actually had an episode of Doctor Who that's not got any commentary whatsoever? The problem is, like in the old days, there used to be commentary about this, that, and the other, but it was done, you know, very, very slowly and softly. It's different now. I understand that. But they think they're so influential that it's their responsibility to shine a light on it. Now, Ncuti Gatwa said the most exposing, revealing, honest thing he'll probably ever say, that he lives in a liberal echo chamber, bubble. And that's the problem. I've spoken about the entertainment industry is a bubble. It is an echo chamber, and there's no dissenting voices allowed. And that's a problem. And that's why entertainment has fallen so low. This is why Doctor Who has fallen so low. There's no example of the liberal echo chamber than the Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who. They allowed him to throw the grenade of the timeless children, and not only does it mess Doctor Who up in terms of its, because it never really had an origin story apart from this is a character who escaped from their world, wanted to travel, and the Time Lords were very stoic and they just wanted to watch over the universe. That was the origin story. Ran away with his granddaughter, and you know, the rest is history. But what Chibnall did, not only did he damage Doctor Who for fans, but he damaged it for any creative coming in. Because so many people have stopped watching the show now. And you can tell by these ratings. You know, last week's live viewers weren't great. What we don't know, were they not great because of the overnight kind of midnight release of the episodes on iPlayer? Or were they not that good in general because people have had enough being slapped in the face by the entertainment industry? Anyone who's worked in a consumer-based industry knows the rules. You don't tell your customer that you hate them. Most people working in consumer-based industries do hate their customers. When I was a teenager and I worked behind the deli counter at the Co-op, I despised my fucking customers. Hang off the band, please. Oh no, it doesn't look very good. What are you going to do? Frame it, mate. But you have to bite your tongue, don't you? And these people no longer are biting their tongue. RTD's marketing campaign for RTD2 has been insane, standing there mocking the fans. But should I tell you what else this exposes? These really low ratings for Boom as well. Where's the Gen Z audience that they were chasing? Well, it's not there. The very reason they cast Ncuti Gatwa, apart from the obvious reason, was that he was in sex education. And most of the viewers of that show were Gen Z. And Ncuti's character became very popular. The problem is, he was used sparingly. He wasn't a lead. He's a bit like Jodie Whittaker. Jodie was never a lead, and you could tell. She didn't have the screen presence of an Eccleston, of a Capaldi, of a Tennant, of a Smith, and you could tell. And it's the same with Ncuti Gatwa. It would be a bit like taking, I've probably said this before, but taking Dean Stockwell, who played Al in Quantum Leap, and saying, well, he's really popular. Shall we put him as a lead in another show or in a film? They wouldn't have done it because they were too clever back then. And that's the problem. I don't believe that Ncuti Gatwa has got a big enough screen presence to be the Doctor. Now, he may grow on me. He may prove himself like David Tennant did to me in The Last of the Time Lords, or what Matt Smith did for me in The Snowmen. And as I've said before, Eccleston was always the Doctor for me. And what's his name? Paul McGann was the Doctor from the moment he, McCoy regenerates into McGann. So, but I think that Ncuti Gatwa has the same problem that Jodie Whittaker has. I think it's a different problem with Ncuti as well in terms of the way RTD is writing him. He's just getting him to parrot, and talk the way the other Doctors did. And, yes, I know he's the Doctor. He kind of should be doing that, but there's nothing new there. When the Doctor regenerates, there's always new character traits. I'm not really seeing it. I know he's wearing different clothes, but I don't see that as a character trait. I don't see him being black and gay as a character trait. I need more. Eccleston was Eccleston. Tennant was Tennant. Do you get it? Smith was Smith. Capaldi was Capaldi. I'm not seeing it here. He hasn't got a really big screen presence, and I think that's another issue. I think he's a solid, good actor, as I've said before, but yeah, I haven't been bowled away by his performances yet, and it's clear that RTD wants him to be more of an emotional Doctor, and if you ask me, slightly more cowardly, so he can be in touch with his feminine side. And the Doctor has never really been a coward. And it's weird. But I think one thing, the abuse of the fans by Russell T Davies, he must have known what was going to happen to the viewing figures. Or maybe they're that deluded. Maybe he thinks that it doesn't matter how he talks to the fans. And I think it is this attitude. We don't want you. We don't want classic Who fans. They're thinking. We don't even want the fans of the revival in 2005. We want new people. And you haven't got new people. They tried this with the Chibnall era. And I remember it. And I've said this before as well. I remember this when they were sitting in a car, Jodie Whittaker, Bradley Walsh, and Tosin Cole, and Yaz, basically. I forgot what her name is in real life. Damn. Anyway, they were all sitting in a car, and they were saying, we'd like to welcome especially the new fans. Bradley Walsh said it. Obviously, he was told to say it. And they've been chasing this invisible new audience. They've been chasing Gen Z for a long time, and they're not getting Gen Z. This is not Gen Z's type of show. Sex education and shows like that are popular with Gen Z because they're grounded. Sex education dealt, I don't know if it's still on, but dealt with a very, very important, teen issues, teen sex, obviously, and things like that. It was very relatable to young people. Now, people will say, well, what about the revival of Doctor Who? Well, the revival of Doctor Who found a big general audience, unlike Classic Who, which had a cult audience. So RTD made it very, very mainstream, purposely, and it worked. But what you got really was children sitting there with their parents. And back then, parents would put their kids in front of the telly if it gave them 45 minutes of peace and quiet. Now they're a bit more picky because of what's going on. The propaganda and extremism at the BBC and at Disney. We'll get there with Disney, and we'll talk about how the low ratings affect them, if anything. But yeah, parents don't have the trust. They don't trust the BBC anymore. And they're stopping their children going to cinemas. They're stopping their children watching the BBC and Disney because what's going on. And parents don't want their kids brainwashed, right? Now, I'm not sure if I agree with this brainwashing or this grooming thing that certain people are saying. But yeah, there's certain situations going on, and I can understand at the very least that parents are being very picky about what their kids are watching. Because what you've got to understand is, I'm very supportive of the trans community. If you feel like you're trapped in the wrong body and you need to do something about it for your own mental health, your peace of mind, your happiness, I support that. But there's another situation brewing with this, and this is why parents are getting very picky. What you don't want is a child going, oh, that looks like fun, I'll try that. And then once they've tried it, imagine they go through the full procedure, the full medical procedure, right? And then they realise, well, oh, that's boring. It's like it's like me when I started gelling my hair back, because when I had hair, when Marcus Tandy in El Dorado was gelling his hair back and he was wearing those cool glasses, right? But I could take them off. So there is a worry about that. So I'm supportive of the trans community, but I'm worried that kids at school, teenagers, will see this as a trend, a fashion thing, a coat that you try on and take off again. These are the things that parents are very, very worried about, and certain YouTubers are concerned about as well. And I absolutely get that, and children do need to be protected from their young minds, because kids, even when they're teenagers, their minds are sponges. They soak in, they soak in everything, and they're easily influenced. And so it's really difficult to kind of say to you, oh, 2.4 million is a disaster. Or it's certain, look, let's be clear. 2.4 million, whether you've got a midnight release of the episode beforehand or not, isn't good. But it may, let's keep it positive just for a few seconds here. If the iPlayer views, which they won't be, were about, 3 to 4 million, then obviously 5-6 million would be awesome, right? It's near what Doctor Who under RTD used to do. So it's going to be very, very interesting how they measure it, what we get from this, because other streamers, and I mean, the iPlayer isn't really classed as a streamer, but it is basically a streaming platform. They talk about how many minutes, how many seconds are being viewed. They do that on purpose to make it seem more than it is. That's a manipulation. Now, the BBC have always been very factual. They've done it in the millions, or they've made it an understandable kind of accumulator, if you like. So I expect that to still be a thing. And so, as I say, I don't think Space Babies will get any more than 5 million when everything is counted. And obviously, the second episode will be lower. But yeah, Moffat's episode, 2.4 million. When I look at that and I think, did I expect more people to come in live? Not really. It's around what I thought it was going to be, to be honest with you. And I mean, this is the era of, catch up and streaming. And if you give people the opportunity to watch it, from midnight, people are going to do that. Fans are going to do that. But the only question is, how many people came in to watch Boom on the iPlayer? I think around just over 2 million, maybe. Just over 2 million. So I think maybe 4 and a bit million, maybe 4.4 million. Which is basically back to the, maybe slightly better than the Chibnall ratings. The Chibnall ratings after Jodie's initial first few episodes weren't very good. So, and to be honest with you, the Doctor Who numbers have been going down slowly, have been getting lesser and lesser ever since RTD left and Tennant left in 2009. But obviously the show was in a much healthier state during season 5 of the first year of the Moffat era. Season 6 was very divisive. Season 7 was even more divisive because people simply didn't like it. It was very mixed up. We had the long goodbye from the Ponds, didn't we? Then we introduced Clara. They've introduced the new companion, and they're going to introduce her again as another character. And there is that element of repurposing themselves as well. And I've said to you before that Doctor Who needs a young, talented Doctor Who fan. I don't care what colour they are, what gender they are, what pronoun they are, but they need someone young to be able to speak to the younger audience and everybody else, to bring the fans back, but bring in this Gen Z audience that they're desperate for. But it's not going to be done this way. And as I say, it's clear that they brought in Ncuti Gatwa because they believed that he could attract Gen Z. But there was a lot of talk of Gen Z, that Millie Gibson interview where they had her talking about, Gen Z are going to love this new Doctor Who. You don't say that. You don't mention Gen Z. You don't. I've said this before as well. You don't. If I think I'm cool and happening, which I don't think, but if I did, I wouldn't say, oh, I'm cool and happening. Because automatically, I ain't cool and happening anymore. I'm a fucking idiot. It comes across stupid. So once an old 61-year-old dude is telling Gen Z, come on, come and watch me, just sounds like, what you got to do, you've got to appeal to that demographic. And you don't talk about them, you just do it. And ultimately, it's not working. Because I've spoken to members of that, the Gen Z demographic, and they're saying what we're saying, the older generation is saying, why is that man abusing the fans? Because they don't know who he is. Why is he being rude? Because Gen Z don't actually like that. Because they're very behavioural police, as we all know. So they're saying, why is he laughing at the fans? Why is he mocking the fans? And why is he moaning that the fans are always complaining? Fans complain, it's their right. They pay for the BBC. So the people from the Gen Z demographic are no more impressed with RTD and his attitude than we are. But as I've said before, you ain't gonna have a 61-year-old geezer appealing to Gen Z. Unfortunately, you can tell he's had a bit of a facelift. He's had work done, that's for sure. And he's trying to look like someone who's vibrant and happening and wants to be there. He isn't vibrant, he isn't happening, and I still believe he doesn't want to be there, and I really don't know why he came back. I think it was a great opportunity for someone new to come in. And there was rumours of someone coming in, and it was the showrunner and creator of the Sarah Lancashire Cop Show with Happy Valley. There was a rumour that she was coming in just before RTD was announced, and maybe the BBC were looking to bring her in. And as I said to you last week, imagine that. You've got Sarah Lancashire as the Doctor, and I know people go, another female Doctor, but it could have been interesting. It would have been different. I don't know what she would have done. But Doctor Who is desperate for a new, vibrant vision, whoever it is. I would like someone around 25, 30 to be running this show. Don't care what colour they are. Don't care about any of that. Because a lot of people do care about that shit, one way or the other, and I don't. I want Doctor Who to thrive. I want Doctor Who to be vibrant again, like it was from 2005 to 2009, and it was really good in the Moffat era as well. We want those days back, but it's very difficult to get those days back when you're dealing with the industry right now. Because it's not just the mid-talented people who just care about their extremism and an ideology. Now we've got former talented creators like Russell T Davies parroting the same extremism as the untalented new people are as well. So in a way, it's like you feel betrayed, because when RTD was coming back, where Sade were thinking, he won't be like them, and he has been like them. In fact, he's been worse. And I think what I liked about Boone was it was a respite from his crap. The good thing is now the marketing campaign is over, and they did a lot of marketing. They travelled everywhere. They even went to Disneyland. Right, 6 minutes to go of this video. Let's discuss what these not so good ratings so far mean for Disney. Disney do not give a shit how many people watch Doctor Who on the BBC. It simply does not affect them. They don't care how many people watch Doctor Who on the iPlayer. All they care about is how many people are coming in to watch Doctor Who on Disney Plus, and is it bringing enough new subscribers to make the investment worth it? Well, basically, you may already know this, but it hasn't been a great investment for Disney. Now, if they got involved with Doctor Who, which they would never have been allowed, but if they got involved with Doctor Who from 2005 to 2009, 2011, whatever, that would have been a big deal. And but it wasn't a Disney Plus then anyway. But if there was and they got involved with it when it was at its peak, it would have been a great business deal. But the BBC didn't need them then. BBC America had enough money to fund the show, and it was working the way it was. But I don't know what kind of Disney really didn't think about it. Didn't they notice what Chibnall had did? Didn't they notice that this wasn't going to be a good idea? And it hasn't worked out well. It hasn't given them the subscribers they thought it would. And not a lot of people came in for the not so specials. We already know that. I have no idea what the figures are for Space Babies in the second episode and boom. I don't know about that, but I don't think it's going to be great at the end of the day. So it only matters to Disney what happens on D+. And what's happening on D+ is it just hasn't brought in the business. That's the simple truth. Because Doctor Who isn't that big a hitter anymore. So I never wanted them involved. I was very, very annoyed that they got involved. And at first I just thought they were going to be the broadcaster and the streamer and they were just going to have it on D+. But then I realised they had an influence to it. And that was very worrying. And you can see the marketing. It's their type of marketing. The quote from Ncuti Gatwa about white mediocrity. That's Disney. That's what Disney think. They told him to say that. There's no question about that. Look, as I say, I don't know if they understand by saying these things they cause problems. I think they think it creates social media hype because they don't care as long as they're trending, as long as you're talking about them. They don't care. The problem is it hasn't worked out the way they want it. Because it's very, very interesting. They're obsessed with social media algorithms. They're obsessed with trending. But here's the truth. And Grace Randolph has got a very good saying. I don't know if it was Grace who started it, but it's this phrase about DC fans. DC fans on the internet and DC fans in the cinema. And basically there's a picture of empty seats in the cinema and lots of DC fans talking about upcoming DC movies, even the Flash movie, etc. So there's a disconnect. That's not just a thing with DC. It's a thing with Doctor Who as well. There's the Doctor Who fans on the internet and there's the lack of the Doctor Who fandom, actually watching the show because they've been driven away. They were told during the marketing to touch grass. They were told, if you don't have the same views as we do, then we don't want you watching our show. Even David Tennant told fans who don't agree with the liberal mindset to fuck off. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And as I say, I believe they think this kind of controversial passive-aggressive marketing is a good idea. And it's not. And it's hurt them. Because surely they need to make money. Surely, and clearly RTD doesn't give a shit. He's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to say what he's going to say. But ultimately, the BBC and Disney must know this isn't a good thing. This isn't going to work. But they're all doing it. Every studio, every network, they're all fucking doing it. They're all slapping their customers in the face. So do they care about making money anymore? Is someone giving them money and they don't need to make any? I don't understand. But these are all debt-ridden companies, that's for sure. And they keep on going around the same old circles, time after time. Nothing is changing, whether it's Star Trek, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Doctor Who. They're doing the same thing. So I celebrate Stephen Moffat's return because, as I said, if it was my choice, my prerogative would be bring someone new in with new ideas. We need to reinvigorate the companion premise and reinvigorate the character that is the Doctor. Because I think as vibrant as Moffat and RTD made the Doctor in their peak, it's just so repetitive. And they're just recycling what they already did. Even in Boom, which I loved, I could tell there was, I still didn't kind of get the whole thing about the fish fingers and custard thing. That was the 11th Doctor's thing. What's your thing? And I know it was a nice thing to put in there. Shout out for Matt Smith. I get it. And this has been another problem with the Jodie Doctor and the Ncuti Doctor. There's nothing really new there. The only new thing about Jodie and Ncuti is that she's a woman and he's black and gay. Well, that isn't a character trait.